Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. Imagine this. Your party of brave adventurers were tasked with moving a valuable shipment through a dangerous mountain path for one of the local lords. They were expecting trouble, and trouble they got. The Villon brothers raided the caravan, stealing everything and spiriting it away to the camp of the Bandit Twins. Of course, with honour, not to mention a pay packet and maybe even their heads, at stake, their heroes gave chase, and in the ensuing confrontation they cut down the twins. But as the villainous villains bled out on the mountainside, staining the white snow crimson, a howl echoed across the cracked and wind-blasted spires of rock, and the cacophonous beat of monstrous wings let the heroes know this was just the beginning of their woes. The Manticore has arrived. Yes, recently the good folk at Steamforged Games sent me out review copies of a selection of their Epic Encounters packs, which are collections of miniatures and rules for running exciting one-shots, side quests and battles in your role-playing games, particularly the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I have already reviewed Camp of the Bandit Twins, and you will find a link to that review in the video description below. But one of the interesting things about the Epic Encounters range is that for each theme there are 2 sets. One set will give you a selection of common enemies, enough to fill a dungeon and challenge the toughest heroes, and the other set will give you a gigantic boss monster. While these sets are designed to work independently, combining them gives you many more options so you can flesh out your story and make the final encounter even more exciting. Today we are looking at Cave of the Manticore, which introduces a Manticore to your run-ins with the Villon Twins, and as with all the Epic Encounters sets, this is beautifully presented in a sturdy box with the awesome hot pink spot gloss and cool artwork. Remove the lid and you are presented with your A2 sized battle map, which is double-sided. Beneath that is a 36-page adventure booklet. These are always so useful, full of tips, tricks, stats and loads of ideas for dungeon masters to integrate into their games. Then there is a token sheet. This lets you field some bandits alongside the Manticore, but if you also have the Camp of the Bandit Twins set, you will use the plastic miniatures from there instead. And speaking of miniatures, beneath the token sheet we have the Manticore itself. This thing is huge. It stands on a 100mm base, but its wingspan is greater than that. It comes in 2 pieces, the tail is separate and just plugs in without glue, so you can easily remove it to store the Manticore back in the box when you are done. You will also notice a recess in the plastic tray that will hold all the cardboard bandit tokens. That's a neat feature. But let's get this beast out of the box and see it in its full glory. It's magnificent, a truly terrifying monstrosity to battle. As with all Epic Encounters miniatures, it has an integrated scenic base, and that rock gives the whole piece some extra height, so it's going to tower over your heroes. Lots of nice detail here. The face is gruesome, and the tattered wings speak of countless battles and a life lived in harsh conditions. And if you are looking for a quality miniature that you don't have to clip and assemble yourself, something like this is ideal. Naturally, a big old chunk of plastic like this is the showpiece in the set, but it is only half the value. The battle map is probably getting close to as good as a paper map can be. It has a slightly matte finish and it's printed on a decent quality material that should hold up to repeated use. Finding a sheet of perspex to lay on top of paper maps is a good idea. It protects the maps and makes it possible to scribble notes and extra details on it as you play. The most interesting thing about this map is that both sides show the same location. On one side you have the Manticore's cave and surrounding area during the day, and on the reverse you have the same location but at night. It's a neat way to help players visualise a nighttime raid on the Manticore's lair. Moving on, we have the adventure booklet. These are always good. I have quite a collection of them now, and they are a great source of inspiration and fun ideas that you can use not just for these encounters, but for any adventure. To begin, there is an introduction covering how to use the Epic Encounters sets to up your game. This includes advice on scaling the Manticore encounter for parties of different levels. Later in the book you will also find 3 different sets of stats for Manticores for this purpose. Then we have 2 pages of lore. What is the Manticore? What does it look like? What is it trying to achieve? In addition to some general background information, you get a selection of legends. Are any of them true? As the Dungeon Master, you can pick and choose the ideas you like, or use them as a foundation to spin off your own take on this classic mythical creature. I think one of my favourite legends here is the one that says manticores cannot breed, and so instead they live cruel lives, seeking only to cause as much harm as possible before dwindling out of existence. That is tragically sad and a fantastic basis for an adventure. Next we get a page of hooks, possible reasons why your heroes have ended up in this predicament. There are a few here that really appeal to my love of gothic horror, like the village that has been driven to madness and despair by the whispering of the manticore that stalks the surrounding wilderness. Then there is a cool double-page art piece showing the manticore swooping over the mountains, followed by 2 pages discussing what the heroes might find in a manticore's lair and what kind of tactics the manticore might use to make full use of its home ground advantage. This leads naturally into a section called the Combat Dashboard, which has some fantastic ideas that you can seed into a conflict with the manticore to make the fight memorable. This includes high winds, uneven ground, and the risk of an avalanche. Then we have a section that talks in more detail about the included battle map, highlighting all the landmarks that could be integral to the experience. There is a stone bridge spanning a gap between 2 mountain peaks, a cliff face that the heroes may be forced to climb to avoid immediate detection, spikes which are positioned to deter frontal attacks, and the cave where the manticore waits and creates grisly trophies with the remains of its victims. Dealing with the manticore in this environment won't be easy, and the heroes may consider several different approaches, ranging from direct assaults to more sneaky efforts to surround and trap the beast. The adventure booklet includes some useful guidance for the Dungeon Master to help them handle all of those approaches. The manticore has many skills at its disposal, and the next 2 pages list a variety of attack types, suggesting a natural progression from one form of attack to the next to create a kind of rhythm and narrative to the encounter that makes it feel more like a story than a simple fight. The various abilities are then discussed in greater depth on the next 2 pages, so you know exactly how to employ them. While in its lair, the manticore has a distinct advantage, using its knowledge of the environment to be even more deadly. Some suggestions are included next on how the manticore might do that, along with some possible cinematic moments you might want to throw in to ensure your heroes talk about this epic conflict long after the final dice have been rolled. One thing here I can't quite figure out, there is a paragraph titled "The Hills Are Alive", and it talks about a dinosaur nest and Tyrannosaurus young. I can't figure out where this nest is supposed to be on the map, and the whole idea feels weirdly out of place during a manticore encounter, so I'm wondering if this section might have been included erroneously. But the following page has a suggestion for one final battle. Just when the manticore seems to have been defeated, it musters enough strength for a last stand. The heroes are going to have to draw their swords one last time, but if they do, they are going to score some serious loot, as detailed in the section on treasure. That brings us to the final part of the booklet, the stats. You get 3 different manticores to fight, scaled in difficulty to face heroes of different levels. They all have the same available actions: multi-attack, bite, claw and tail spike, and they all have tail spike regrowth, but the more powerful versions are able to use these abilities to more deadly effect. And the most powerful manticore also has legendary resistance, allowing it to shrug off the damage from a failed saving throw 3 times per day. The first manticore is Xerxes, who is classed as challenge 3 and worth 700 experience. The second is Cyrus, who is challenge 10 and worth 5,900 experience. Finally, there is Darius, who is challenge level 17 and worth a whopping 18,000 experience. Manticores get 3 legendary actions, choosing from Detect, Multi-Attack and Tail Spike, so these foes are absolutely no slouches, and the heroes can be sure that this is going to be exactly what it promises to be, a truly epic encounter. But that just about wraps up this quick look at the Cave of the Manticore, another great miniature with excellent rules to go with it. Personally, I do prefer the sets that give you more minions, like the Camp of the Bandit Twins. I'm just going to get a lot more use out of those, but there is no denying the excitement that dropping a huge manticore into the mix is going to generate. A few of these big boss monsters, introduced at just the right time, is going to make for some tough and engaging fights that will really test your heroes. Regardless of what kind of adventure you are running, you are sure to find something useful in Steamforged Games' Epic Encounters range, and I will link to their online store in the video description below. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.